Regulators and supervision agencies are often accused of being intransparent and unpredictable. And to be fair, I do think we all need to further improve on this. But isn't it sometimes better to be unpredictable? My name is Oud Koster, and this is Supervision Strategy. Last post I discussed a particular supervision strategy, problem-focused supervision. This post I will reflect on predictability. Should a supervisor be predictable? Now I find that's actually not such an easy question to answer. Now there are obvious advantages to being predictable. Most of your stakeholders will definitely appreciate it. Because predictability promotes trust, and trust can be very helpful in advancing your supervision objectives. And you may indeed be expected to act predictably. After all, most supervision agencies are public entities, and all of them exercise legal enforcement powers. But there are downsides to predictability as well, because acting predictably reduces your flexibility, and you need to be flexible to respond to what happens in your domain. Also, a bit of unpredictability may help to deter non-compliance, catch covert malpractices, and bolster your reputation as a watchdog. So, to resolve this, I think it helps to pinpoint in which way you want to be predictable. So I think you might distinguish at least 5 ways of being predictable. So there's predictability of judgment, of procedure, of focus, of style, and of strategy. And I think you might find that the importance of predictability, and whether you even want to be predictable, may vary between these 5 types. So I'll briefly discuss these 5, and I would invite you to see where do you agree with my assessment, and where do you perhaps disagree. The predictability of judgment is probably the most straightforward. I would argue that it's obvious that it should be predictable how a supervision agency makes its assessments. So if you find that what firm A does is a breach of regulations, perhaps worthy of a fine, and what firm B does is exactly the same, then your assessment of firm B's conduct should also be the same. Now I would argue that as a default, the actions and procedures to which you arrive at such a judgment should also be predictable. But I think we all know exceptions to that default rule. Now the obvious exception is when you suspect criminal activity. So obviously it should be unpredictable when and where you're conducting a so-called dawn raid, or when you're about to seize assets that are at risk of being obscured. And a mystery shopping program might fall somewhere in between. So you might want to be transparent that you have such a program, but the exact timing and locations that you'll be visiting, you might want those to be unpredictable. When it comes to focus, I think it depends on scale. So on a larger scale, let's say for this year, I think it's very useful to provide some insight into your priorities. But on a smaller scale, if it becomes completely predictable which firms you will visit and which topics you will look at, I think you might be in trouble. Because that kind of predictability will undermine firms' incentive to be vigilant about all their compliance efforts. And I think this is actually a particular vulnerability, or a downside if you like, of a compliance-based sort of tick-the-box supervision approach. Now when it comes to style, I think it depends on scale again. So on a small scale, I think it's inevitable that a supervision officer's particular style may vary sometimes considerably from his or her colleagues. That can actually be useful. I think we all know that sometimes you need a supervision officer who can easily connect with people, and sometimes you need an officer who's a bit more tough. But on a larger scale, I think a consistent organizational style contributes to your sort of informal authority. And that authority is a crucial tool in promoting compliance. And finally, your overall supervision strategy should obviously be predictable. I find that it helps tremendously if both your colleagues and the firms that you supervise understand how what you're doing now fits into your overall supervision strategy. So what are your thoughts on the predictability of supervision? Let us all know in the comment section or let me know at supervisionstrategy.com. Next time I'll discuss the benefits and complexities of analyzing why firms either comply with the law or break the law. Until then, thank you for watching and thank you for working on supervision.